Oh my gosh, you guys, I just got the news. There's a new superstar premiering on this week's show, and someone's going to join a heel faction. That must mean Glacier's finally going to show up, and there's somebody new for the NWO, right? Yes, this is going to be great.
Do you want to tell him about the leprechaun?
Yeah, let's let him find out on his own.
The following podcast has been paid for by the new Pod Order.
Hello, wrestling fans, and welcome back to episode 4 of the new Pod Order. I am your host. I just got back from walking down the beach in my short shorts and sensually peeling off my white WCW t-shirt. I am Adam Rogers. With me, as always, is the only man who works harder than Jimmy Hart on the average TV show. We have Joe the Brain Chasick.
How's everybody doing tonight? Last weekend was great. It was Memorial Day. I went and had a cookout with Larry Zbyszko.
Oh man, so we're gonna have to ride this mute button for you a few times then, huh? Well, we'll deal with that when we get to it. And with me, also with me is the man, the myth, the legend, the American brother, Matt Rogers. Say hello to the people, Matt.
Hello, people. How are you today?
Excited to hear about WCW, I'm sure. And so that brings us to the topic that we're here to talk about today. What is this podcast? It's not a conspiracy theory podcast. If you came in here to hear about how the gray aliens assassinated JFK, you're in the wrong place. This is instead a podcast where three wrestling fans chronicle the rise and fall of the New World Order, wrestling's greatest faction, one episode at a time. This week, we're talking about the Nitro, 3 Nitros after the Bash at the Beach on July 22nd, 1996. We're going to see how things are following up. We've got our New World Order storyline finally launched. We had the big promo last week with Hulk Hogan coming out in black, and we will see what the follow-up to that looks like. But before we move on to that, let's take a moment to take a look at what was going on in the world. So for the week of July 22nd, the Time magazine cover featured a picture of Prince William with the headline, "After the royal divorce, can this boy save the monarchy?" At this point, I think the monarchy has bigger problems. The number one movie is still Independence Day. So I kind of forgot how this was just a mess. I mean, I knew it was a blockbuster, but good Lord, we're in like week 3 now. The Billboard number one song is "You're Making Me High" / "Let It Flow" by Tony Braxton. And the number one TV show as per last week was ER. So currently ER is up 2-1 on Seinfeld in the winner of the ratings contest. Speaking of ratings contests, it wouldn't be WCW if we didn't swipe the WWF's results from Raw. This week, there was a tag match between Shawn Michaels and Ahmed Johnson. They took on the Smoking Guns, who there's kind of a little proto rivalry sort of building with them, mostly with involving Shawn kind of harassing Sonny more than anything else. But that match ends with a man in a teal, blue, and black outfit with a silver spray painted helmet. Ron Simmons coming out as the Gladiator, running down to the ring and, quote, kayfabe injuring Ahmed Johnson's kidney bad enough that he actually goes on the shelf for several months. This was a pretty serious kidney problem he was having, so this was a way to get him off TV. And it did build to one of, I think, probably the better sort of feuds that he had in his relatively short career when he came back. But I'm sure we will get to that. ratings comparison for this week for Nitro. Nitro's at a 2.6 compared to Raw's 2.2. So the gap is narrowing a little bit, but not narrowing because more people are watching Raw, just narrowing because less people are watching Nitro, which you could debate about if this sort of follow-up to Bash at the Beach maybe has something to do with that and the slower pace that things have been going at. But that's for Eric Bischoff to know and us to speculate about. Rolling on to Nitro. We are back at the MGM Disney Studios because the Olympics are still going on. And in fact, they talked briefly about the Olympics opening ceremony with Muhammad Ali this year, lighting the torch. And they show a quick clip of Eric Bischoff giving Ali a plaque, I guess, honoring his achievements in the name of WCW. Immediately afterwards, they replay a clip of Shaq with Hulk Hogan. I think trying to draw some parallels because Shaq had just signed with the Lakers. So maybe that was kind of like Hulk Hogan selling out and joining the NWO. But Shivani and Zbyszko are here looking fine in their polos as always while they're here on the MGM lot. Shivani is promising that this week the Giant will answer Hulk Hogan's challenge, which he does with authority. And they start out with a quick recap of what events happened last week before we roll on into our first match being Squire Dave Taylor with Jeeves. No Lord Regal or the whole freaking retinue that they had last time. Just Dave coming out against Scott Norton. Scott Norton coming off of the breakup of his Fire and Ice tag team the week before. And a relatively uninspired performance in the aforementioned match. As they hit the ring, or as they're on the way out to the ring, they announce that indeed Scott and the Ice Train are going to be facing off at Hog Wild. And I think this kind of sets the tone of one of the goals of this episode for the bookers, because this episode is really laying out the card at Hog Wild. We go from just kind of knowing that Hulk Hogan wants to fight the Giant for the title, but nobody knows for sure, to I think we've got most of the card laid out by the time we get done with tonight's Nitro. They're discussing the fallout of the breakup of the two teams. Zbyszko kind of blew my mind because he drops the word neophytic to describe Ice Train, which I was like, whoa, where did that come from?
that was in my notes. I rewound to make sure I heard him right. And then I was like,
me too.
Wait, do I understand what that means? So then I Googled it and was like, that is what I thought it means. I didn't think Zbyszko had that in his arsenal.
Yeah, no kidding.
My note was, I'm going to have to step up my game if Larry is going to use words that big and use them correctly.
Yeah, no joke. He only acts like he's a complete chauvinist pig, brainless chauvinist pig. There's really a lot going on in that Zbyszko mind.
Yeah. No, the chauvinist is gonna get back into it when we talk about the women's match later.
I know. I left it in the notes for you specifically. But what we do discover on the way to the ring is that people apparently hate England enough that they're going to cheer for Scott Norton anyway. We hit the ring, and so this week I'm kind of stepping away from the whole play-by-play thing because I think it kind of stretches out a lot of the discussion and is not that interesting. So overall general view of this match for me, this is a real clash of styles. You've got Dave Taylor is a traditional wrestler. He's going to do in-ring stuff. He's got some of the European kind of strong style with, the European uppercuts and things like that. But he is much more of a traditional wrestler compared to Norton's very stiff, strong style. And you get a good example of that pretty early on where Norton is, in doing his big guy stuff. Dave does his slide between the legs maneuver, which I guess must be part of his repertoire because I remember he did that with Hugh Morris too. Pops up for a drop kick, this thing that looks good, but is not a thing you would do in an actual fight. Hits a couple of European uppercuts, and then Norton just comes in and obliterates him with an incredibly stiff clothesline that takes him out of his shoes. So you get a real quick look at the difference between these two guys' approach to professional wrestling. Joe, what do you think about this match kind of in the early goings here?
Boy, it was it was slow. They took forever to lock up. I think this is another case. These look like a couple guys probably haven't worked together a lot. Very tentative, but fortunately that changes pretty quickly.
Yeah, definitely. I honestly was relatively impressed with this match, especially because I was a little bit hard on Norton last week. He didn't seem super interested to me. Maybe he likes this gimmick that or this angle that they're setting up between him and Ice Train, but he felt bought into this match. Matt, did you feel the same way?
No, I thought it kind of tied into the criticism we gave him last week was that while, he was no selling and acting like a hoss, there's a couple times where he hit moves where in my notes I wrote words like lazy or disinterested. Like there are a couple of times he put him down with clotheslines. I think you mentioned already hit him with several Europeans. And I mean, Norton put him down, but it wasn't like a very well executed clothesline. It looked like a minimal effort clothesline, but it might just be that I had a bad slant on him from last week. So maybe I'm wrong, but I just didn't think that Norton was fully checked in, but I could be wrong.
Joe, you're the tiebreaker.
I didn't think it was great.
Okay.
I think that Norton looked. I don't know if I don't know. I don't necessarily know if more interested is the word, but I think that he looked more comfortable in the style that was being worked in the match.
Okay, maybe that's what it was. Well, the style of this match comes to an end with something that is very confusing given what we've seen over the last few weeks, because Norton hits Taylor over the ropes and suddenly there's a disqualification for knocking your opponent over the ropes. So this week, I guess that's illegal. Till the luchador comes out, and it's not illegal anymore.
Yeah,
but
this match, not even this week. This match, it's illegal.
yeah,
No. Yeah, I was like, I put this was a weird week for the WCW refs because it looks like they spontaneously grew a spine. Like they were telling Norton to stop
right.
doing heel stuff, and then he doesn't listen, throws him over, and the bell started ringing, and I actually froze and went, hold on, is that supposed to be ringing or is this a production error? Because it took the commentary forever to announce that it was a disqualification, and I think Norton and Taylor were confused too because I had in my notes that Norton kind of picked Taylor up and was carrying him around outside as the bell was ringing.
Yeah.
Nobody really knew what was going on, so it really caught me off guard, and I think it caught Norton and Squire Dave off guard too.
Yeah, they go brawl for a bit, and then Norton looks like he's going to pick him up and carry him to the back. And I wasn't sure if maybe he just, when he was trying to maneuver around the steps, if he got off balance or something and dropped him. But yeah, he talks to the ref. The ref tells him what happened, and that's it. You may be right. I didn't cotton onto it, but you may be right that the ref even maybe was just like, well, that's the DQ. Why they care this week and they haven't cared before, I don't know. But I don't know. It felt to me like a way of, I mean, I don't think they'd be protecting Dave Taylor, but like that's the reason for doing the over top rope DQ is you get a match ending that doesn't, bury anybody and lets people keep their heat. Yeah, I don't know, Joe. Final thoughts on this match before we move on.
Boy,
this relatively brief match.
Yeah, I had -1 star. So I think that's the first negative that anybody's given a match so far. Mostly just because I don't know what the point of this was. The only thing I can argue is that maybe they're just trying to get Norton over as a heel who doesn't care about the rules. That's the best I can say about it.
Yeah, Matt, what have you got?
I mean, I gave it a very generous quarter star. I think mostly it was because I was still a bask in the glow of Zbyszko dropping Neophytic, so I had a really hype going into it. But it was weird. Like I don't even know. I know you got time to fill on the show, but I have no idea what the point of that was. Like if you had gotten Ice Train involved and somehow it ended up in a DQ, maybe that makes sense. But like these two aren't involved in a program. Norton's involved with Ice Train. I don't think Dave Taylor's got anything coming up. So why not just have Norton squash Taylor to look strong going into the pay-per-view? I don't get what the bookers were thinking here, and that's why it makes me wonder if the bell ringing was some kind of a botch. But we'll never know. The only people that know are Bischoff, and I doubt he'll ever tell us the truth. So
Bischoff for the referee.
And even Bischoff probably doesn't remember. So
yeah, most likely. And I mean, for what it's worth, I feel like what they were trying to do with this and with his appearance later in the show is what you said, is sort of build him up as this monster when he's not like super tall as wrestlers go. Like he's not short, but you get what I'm saying. He's not the giant or anything like that. But you know, that he's just a devil may care, screw the rules, I'm here to beat people up kind of guy. I don't know, maybe I was just in a good mood when I watched this show, but I gave it a little bit more of a shine than you guys did. But nowhere near the shine that I got when I saw the vignette come on next. And for a minute, this VK Wall Street character appears, and I'm like, I know that guy. That's Mr. Mike Rotunda, aka Erwin R. Shyster, the IRS.
Yeah, no, I actually paused my stream because I was like, I know who that is, but I can't place it. And then I Googled it, and I was like, it's Mike Rotunda. So I was pretty excited to see that.
Yeah. I didn't realize he was another one of the people that had jumped ship at this point, but there's plenty of them. So it would make sense from that standpoint. And he's here with his VK Wall Street character, which I guess is a shot at Vincent Kennedy McMahon. And he's here, and he's in to let Conan know that he's in for a hostile takeover, and he'd better be ready. Nobody told him that the NWO is doing a hostile takeover, so don't infringe on that. Pop out to a commercial break. We come back for the first of the numerous production issues that we're going to see over the course of this show. I don't know if it's the MGM thing or if it's just a WCW thing, but this episode was particularly bad with the microphones, not coming on when they needed to, or people not cueing the commentators for when they needed to start, commentating. But we come back. There's nobody talking. Mean Gene, you can barely hear him speaking underneath everything, talking about the NWO and the Horsemen. And we cut down and we see that Gene is at a fruit buffet, sitting with three of the Four Horsemen. We've got Arn Anderson, Chris Benoit, and Mongo McMichael sitting here. And the topic of the hour, as Gene is speaking with Arn, is that there's no Ric Flair here at this point, even though he's supposed to be in a 6-man tag with Benoit and McMichaels against Sting, Luger, and the Macho Man this week. Arn says if there's one thing that Rick likes, it's making an entrance. So don't worry about it. Ric Flair's going to be here. We have no reason to think otherwise at this point in the match. We do go over to Mongo, who, I appreciate the enthusiasm Mongo has for a promo. Like, he's into it. Like, he's having a good time. Doesn't always make a lot of sense. He describes Luger, Sting, and the Macho Man as pretty boys, the real pretty boys. And after this match, they're not going to be pretty no more. And then we bop over to Benoit, who is doing what I think I've kind of realized is the normal Benoit promo, at least at this point in his career, where he just sort of rambles some stuff about how much of a badass he is. He calls himself unrelentless at one point, which is that's a phrase. He's also silent but deadly, which is why he's been talking for a while before this point. So yeah, that's a promo that happened. It sets the stage for our main event, where we've got the Horsemen and facing what I keep thinking in my head of calling Team WCW, just because that's kind of their role right now in the whole thing here. They're the ones that are up against the NWO and trying to hold the line, and sort of starts this "Where's Ric Flair" angle that ends up kind of being a thing as we go along. What'd you think about the promo here, Matt?
I thought it was decent. Was it something to write home about? No, but did it serve the purpose, move the story along, and set the stage for the main event? Yeah. I did write in my notes that when Benoit was talking, he sounded unbelievably French Canadian. Like, I don't know if it was just me, but he sounded less Canadian like he normally sounded, and he was really leaning into French Canadian accent. And I was like, it's a choice. I guess we're working on character work, but
he wasn't quite dropping an A or anything like that after what he was
No,
saying. But
certainly not.
what about you, Joe? Opinions?
Oh.
Anything you want to share?
It's pretty much the same. I agree with. I'm glad that Mongo is enthusiastic about the promos, even if he's not actually good at them. I really liked the end where Gene asks Mongo to hand him a banana. I'm pretty sure he did that because it looked to me like Mongo was working really hard to corpse after Benoit talking about being unrelentless.
Well, and then of course he pretends to throw the banana at Mean Gene. So that's what you get. Ask monkey for banana, but monkey throw banana. We move on to the match. We've got Mr. VK Wall Street coming out in a blazer that he must have been just dying under in this Miami Heat or Orlando Heat as he's heading to the ring. As soon as he hits the ramp, an IRS chant breaks out in the stadium, so that's a good time. He gets to the ring, starts taking his stuff off. Conan hits the ramp, and I have a note that basically says Conan's ring gear makes Psychosis look subtle and understated by comparison. He is wearing bright pink, neon green, white tassels. He is looking fly, in my opinion. But he heads down to the ring, and he is pretty over. He gets a pretty good pop from the crowd as he's turning to sort of mug and pull his mask off for him. On the way down, we're sort of well, you know. They're making
I appreciated how little it hid.
Yes. I mean, it's kind of, you know, it's honoring the tradition of the luchador thing without having, you know, he's not a wrestler that works in a mask. So the conversation between Shivani and Zbyszko is still talking about the Horsemen. And there's also been that I guess I just pointed this out because I thought it was odd that Shivani is pivoting over to also talking about how it's weird that Flair is relying so much on his valets, like he did in the match with Conan at the pay-per-view, and then pretty much as he did with Jim Powers. You know, I don't know if maybe the thought was that we were trying to set up like maybe he's over the hill and doesn't have it anymore, or where exactly they're going with this at this point. Zbyszko just says that, well, Rick likes women, so that's an explanation. And then just for you, Matt, he also makes sure to point out that he prefers that his women stay at home.
Yeah, I believe his direct quote was, he likes women where they belong. And then to Shivani's credit, he hopped right in and said, no, we're not going back to that well this week. And I was like, thank you, Shivani. You let him get in. You let him get in his one, and then you told Grandpa to be quiet and go back to drinking his beer. So I was pretty happy that got shut down.
Yeah, I didn't. I mean, I'm not gonna lie. I didn't remember SJW Tony Schiavone, but warrior for civil liberties on the broadcast. As far as the match went, I'm almost hesitant to say this because maybe I was like just moon-eyed at the whole show, but I thought this was a pretty good match. I put in that like it's fast-paced. Conan, I'm always kind of still surprised at how good of a worker he is at this point in his career. Like, he's fast, he looks strong, and he really, really sells well, which I definitely did not remember as being a thing with him. But again, most of what I know of Conan was from his Odelay, Arriva La Raza, Wolfpack days. So at that point, it was do a somersault clothesline and call it a day for the most part. And I think he paired up pretty well with who I really struggled not to call Irwin or IRS through the notes. I'm going to stick with VK. But I think VK is also another one of those workers that's really underrated for how good he was at the time. I think probably because he got saddled with these sort of junk gimmicks more than anything else. But this is a great pair working together, and I think this is a great match. Joe, I see some nods.
Yeah. They had a couple of pretty rough spots right in the very beginning. There's a spot where Conan tosses Wall Street into the corner, the other way around. Wall Street tosses Conan into the corner, and
Right.
Conan goes to slingshot over him, and Wall Street just never moves. Like he didn't get the memo about what the next spot was. That they go ahead and they run back later and do, I'm pretty sure, the way that they had intended to the first time.
Right.
But yeah, no, they had good chemistry. There were, again, a couple spots where we're kind of forcing the referee to ignore rope breaks so that we can work a hold, those kinds of
That's
things.
true. That's true.
But it's all stuff where it's not because it's poor quality work. It's just things that either didn't get the cameraman didn't help him out with, or things that you can very easily chalk up to, they just need more time in the ring together.
Right. Yeah. I mean, who knows if this is their first time working together at this point? Probably Dave Meltzer, but he's not here right now. So
cagematch.net as well, if you want to go look things like that up there.
Gotcha. Yeah, after that spot with the corner thing, Conan comes down and let's see, I almost called him IRS again. VK steps in and kicks him in the back of the leg, starting up a little bit of psychology where he drops down into a leg hold. His offense for a little while here is focused on the leg, although they kind of let that drop as the match goes along. I did note that the leg hold he was using, he was doing, the good old grab the ropes for leverage trick, but I'm pretty sure in that leg hold, grabbing the ropes for leverage would actually pull him off of twisting Conan's leg and make it hurt less, not more. So don't think that was as effective as maybe they were hoping for.
So I agree with you. That does not look like the leg hold where this would work. I think the idea there is that way he can get lower into the hold and still keep his balance.
Okay. Maybe
again, I don't think it works with that particular hold, but I'm pretty sure that's the psychology behind it.
I think instead of the brain, we have to start calling Joe William Regal, because he's really doing a good job selling these explanations.
Okay, gotcha. I did also notice at this point that our hero from last week's show, in the blue shirt, who tried to save Eddie from Chris Benoit, he's sitting over in front of the hard cam this week, so we get to see him as this is going along. And he apparently seems to be a big fan of the Latino wrestlers, because when Irwin dumps Conan outside, he is like up on his feet, which I'm not making fun of the guy, but like he has a cane and he's a big guy. So getting up out of the chair to like get in and start cheering, this is a big deal. He's very clearly bought into this thing. Unfortunately, also on that side of the hard cam is a family of boys who are painfully aware of the fact that they're on TV, and they want to make sure that everybody knows it, and that they're going to show off as much as possible. That little twerp in the green shirt, I was pretty sick of him by the end of the show.
Marvin the Martian. That's what he is in my notes.
Yep. There's a few times where I think there's a point later where Eddie gets hurled at him that I was like, just throw an elbow out, Eddie. It's fine. I mean, those are people that security would come and get in a normal show and pull them out of there, so they quit mugging in front of the camera. We get an Irwin chant. At one point, I was like, are they doing boring? But no, it was Irwin, I'm pretty sure. But this was while they were in a rest hold, where this was that spot you were talking about, Joe, where he's got him in an arm hold and Conan is like bending his knee to like not get a rope break. And eventually the ref just kind of comes over, just like, dude, his foot's in the rope. You got to break the hold. He almost looked apologetic about it. Some more work goes on. VK gets, we go into our finish. VK gets Conan up for a Samoan drop, which is apparently his finish, called the Wall Street Crash, which Conan then immediately buries by no selling it during the pinfall and rolling VK up for a pin. I mean, it is just a Samoan drop, so but it's kind of not a cool thing to do to this guy's finisher. Matt, what do you think about this match?
I thought it was pretty good, really good overall. I gave VK a lot of credit. He's really good at working a heel match. He gets the cheap heat going. He works the ropes. He had the fans so solidly behind Conan at one point. I put, wow, the crowd is really behind Conan in my match notes. I did want to highlight the fact that, as in comparison to last week, we have a heel versus face here, and it's working
very unusual,
way better than those heel versus heel matches done. And it seems like maybe we're turning a corner on our booking, and we're starting to focus on not putting two heels in the ring together. But overall, I gave this like a 2 3/4 star. I thought it was pretty good overall. I do want to highlight another low light for Zbyszko, where after the match ends, he did ask if Conan had his green card. So racist Uncle Larry's still there.
Yeah. I mean, honestly, I think VK is one of the few people that got saddled with a Vince McMahon, your gimmick is a job type gimmicks that actually sort of rose above that and kind of elevated the character. Now, admittedly, making the IRS a successful heel is not a real stretch. Nobody likes the IRS, so. But he had a lot of great runs in WWF with a lot of people. So I agree. He works great as a traditional heel. I will pump the brakes on the whole. Maybe they figured out faces versus heels works better, and point to the match immediately preceding this one.
Yeah.
Or 2 or 3 other ones on this card. But yeah, Joe, where do you land on this thing?
So the first time I watched it, I was not into it at all. I don't know. I think I may have been kind of overly tired that day, to be perfectly honest. I watched it again last night, and it came off much better the second time. It's probably a 1.5 star match for me. It's good. It's entertaining. There's just enough little things in it that just don't quite work to keep me from being super excited about it.
Gotcha. Well, what we can get excited about is that we're going to cut over to Mean Gene, once again, interviewing Team WCW, Sting, Lex Luger, and the Macho Man. Gene leads in with, "Oh, what a tangled web we weave, when at first we practice to deceive." I don't know what that was in reference to.
I think we were tying into our literary primrose path from the week before.
He does mention, he sets up their match with the Horsemen later on, and at some point mentions that Rick may be driving out driving around in a big fat limo, so that's why he's not here. Sting, Lex Luger, and the Macho Man apparently were looking at what the Dungeon of Doom came up with, that the best way to beat the NWO is to take out the Four Horsemen. So that's their plan for this week. They're going to make a statement by beating up the Horsemen. Luger recaps his beatdown from the NWO the previous week that was done while Sting and Macho were off in Japan, talking about how it got him down low. Sting corrects Gene that there's only one guy driving around in a big fat limo, and he could stick it. I can't believe that's a thing that they're running with still. Like, I made that little poster there as a joke, and I'm going to be running it now for the 3rd episode in a row. He doesn't care where Rick is. He feels like chomping on some Horsemen. It's at this point that the guys in the back start playing the music to go to commercial break over top of the promo. And so real quick, Gene tries to let Macho talk. Macho just says he wants Hogan and the Nature Boy here. I think he's trying to just rush. Do we want to put a madness score on this promo, or do we want to just say there's not enough here to score?
I would say there's not enough here to score.
Yeah. I think we wait for later in the show.
I think his madness pills hadn't kicked in yet.
Perhaps not. And as we're going to see later on, perhaps Sting and Luger have taken some of those pills at this point, because they are out of pocket tonight, where Macho, if anything, seems subdued. But what's not subdued was me when we went to the commercial, and holy shit, there's a new Glacier commercial. We see Glacier himself, the man, the myth, the legend, on screen, wearing a costume that I can't help but notice was nowhere near as complicated as it was in the previous commercial. One wonders if they tried the costume and like it didn't actually work and they had to strip it down. But he's at apparently Glacier's ice palace. I don't know. Maybe he's like Superman. He's got a fortress of solitude somewhere. And he's doing some karate. And I will put these katas at somewhere between Bruce Lee and mall dojo black belt, shopping mall karate, somewhere in between that. It doesn't look bad, but it does kind of look a little silly. Matt, I think you had a term that you came up with.
Yeah, I enjoyed rhythmic karate. I believe I coined the term karate DDR because that is very much what it looked like. Music in the background and karate to the beat.
Yes.
Not as much content from this one, which was a little bit sad. And when it went to the end and just popped up the Glacier, much as I was complaining about it last time, now I miss the announcer. I want the announcer back. Nobody to tell me that blood runs cold or inside each of us beats the heart of a warrior.
I mean, you know whether your blood runs cold and whether the heart of a warrior beats inside you at this point.
This is true. And, you know, one has to assume that now that we've got this, you know, look at the actual superstar, the costume is made, probably going to see Glacier pretty soon, right?
Oh,
right?
Yeah, definitely.
Sometime in the next 3 months, without a doubt.
Probably, yeah, almost certainly before the end of the year.
Yeah, Q4.
Save it for Q4 for sweeps. The kids love Sub-Zero.
Come back from the commercial break. We're setting up an 8-man tag match. We've got 4 new superstars, including that plucky youngster Jim Powers, as well as 3 other guys. And we get to highlight these 4 dudes in maybe the most homoerotic commercial that's ever been filmed for wrestling. A commercial that features the 4 of them looking brutally at the camera from a bridge somewhere in Orlando, one presumes, and then walking individually up the beach and just peeling off their shirt, showing off the abs and the muscles, throw it off to the side, look intensely into the camera, and keep walking forward. They're all exactly the same. It's weird that the director didn't throw out like, maybe switch it up, maybe do a different thing. Renegade, showing that he is true to his name, does wait a bit longer before peeling his shirt off than the others. But yeah, we've got these 4 fellas. We got Alex Wright, we've got Joe Gomez, we've got Jim Powers, and Renegade. We've talked about Jim and Joe before. I don't know, Alex. Joe, did you look up anything about Alex or Renegade?
So Alex is pretty new. I did not look anything up about him, but I've listened to enough 83 Weeks to hear Eric talk about him a little bit. This is his first year in the company. I think he's 19 at this point.
He looks it.
He's very young. And yeah, though they brought him in kind of to be, because he was getting over to a large degree internationally, and they were trying to just grow an international audience. But they've also brought him in specifically to be one of the cornerstones of the cruiserweight division. Whether or not that pans out moving forward, we'll see. As far as Renegade, this was in I think it's been about a year that he's been in the company too. He showed up as they were promoting Hulk Hogan, bringing in I can't remember what the exact wording is. It's been a long time since I looked anything up about him. They basically were implying that the Ultimate Warrior was coming to WCW, and the Renegade is what we got. And in this particular case, it was close enough on the heels of things like Ray Traylor coming in as the boss instead of the big boss man, and them getting threatened with being sued over that, and a couple of other similar incidents, that they decided that having him do actual face paint was probably a little bit too close to the trademark line, so his face paint was just like a big letter R over one eye.
Oh God, the worst choice possible.
Yeah.
I guess you don't want to step on Sting's thing too, so
Yeah.
there'd be some overlap there.
I guess I just wanted to point out too that unless I missed it, which is entirely possible because I was mesmerized, but I think the only choice that was more bold than our homoerotic shirt stripping is the fact that nowhere in that video were their names introduced.
No, of course not. Why would you?
Why would you want to tell us who's coming? You're like, check out these 4 new competitors for the next match. I was like, all right, who are these guys? I mean, they're shirtless now and they're, oiled up real nice, but who the hell are
Jacked
they?
as hell.
Yeah. So I was
even for pro wrestlers, most of these guys are jacked as hell.
Yeah. So I thought it was quite interesting to not actually tell us who they are, besides guys who do not like shirts.
No, I had to scroll to the next match to get the names because I pointed that out too. Like, I mean, who cares? Just 4 hunks. It definitely tells you something about what's going to happen to them in the next match.
No. And you would have thought, based off that promo, that the target demographic was, the female 25 to 35, because who cares about telling us anything about the wrestlers? But man, look, they're pretty.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and one thing that we probably also should point out is that Renegade, real name Rick Wilson, unfortunately passed away very young, all the way back in 1999. So we'll get to see him for a while. I think eventually he maybe even just starts going by Rick Wilson toward the end of his time in the company. But it's actually kind of a situation where it seems to me like he probably got brought in too raw, rushed to TV too soon. And he's definitely one of those what could have been if they just had a little bit more patience with him type guys.
Yeah, I agree. I think he had the best look out of all of them, although the jorts and boots that he's got on the beach might have just done that all by himself. But in any case, our 4 protagonists presumably go off and do some beach volleyball and then show up for their match. They are coming in and they are going to face the Dungeon of Doom, but not the good ones. We've got Taskmaster, we've got Hugh Morris, and the Barbarian. So even Meng was like, nah, miss me with that on this match. They're coming out with Jimmy Hart and a new superstar who Tony Schiavone is trying very hard not to either laugh or scoff at this idea as he's setting it up. And he tells them, let's just look at the monitor. Let's just see what's going on. As shortly thereafter, we see the Leprechaun sprint out. The truck cuts away. The Leprechaun sprints out. He goes running around the ring. He's in a green felt coat and brown pants. I'm assuming he has false teeth in. I hope that those aren't his real teeth. I mean, I went and I looked at when the Leprechaun movie came out, and it was a few years before this, but Mortal Kombat was a few years before this. So maybe this is just the cycle of things that WCW taps into. But I know that, Joe, you were so impressed by this that when I came up to visit you on Memorial Day weekend, you made me watch this cold just so that you could see my reaction, for which I will never give you.
Wait, hold on, Joe. I want my background deep dive into the Leprechaun.
So my notes literally read, fuck, I'm going to be asked who this is.
Mm-hmm. That's your punishment.
So, this is first off, the Leprechaun. I'm pretty sure they borrowed Vince McMahon's box of gimmicks for this.
Sure.
But I think that this is the gimmick because pretty sure this is the shortest guy on the roster. Mm-hmm. This is a guy who real name Dwayne Bruce, not Dwayne, Dwayne Bruce. He's formerly of the tag team known as the State Patrol. He was Sergeant Buddy Lee Parker, but his real claim to fame is probably being the head trainer at the WCW power plant.
At this point or in the future?
I don't know if it's quite yet at this point, but definitely in the near future, if he isn't already. He was involved in training DDP and Nash and the Giant and a handful of other lesser wrestlers. He also soon will be working with some guy named Bill Goldberg, which is just like the dumbest name for a wrestler. So I hope they come up with something good for that guy. If
Given
you want
the
another little
Leprechaun,
sneak peek,
I hesitate to think what gimmick they would give to a man with the name Goldberg. Let's just hope that they've sorted this out by then.
Yeah. If you want a couple of other sneak peeks into Dwayne Bruce's future, the reason that most WCW fans of our vintage might remember him is this is Sarge, who they bring in toward the end of Goldberg's run as the guy who as being his actual trainer. But he also, according to Wikipedia, sometime in the relatively near future, will be back on TV under a different gimmick as a military character named Jack Boot.
Okay, we'll look forward. So you're saying this Leprechaun thing doesn't stick then? Huh?
I don't think it probably does, and I can't imagine why not.
Yeah.
Well, it certainly didn't help that as soon as he came out from the back, the camera cut away from him. WCW's production is terrible. Seriously. Go ahead, Matt. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off.
Oh no, you were gonna say I didn't. My brain didn't connect the dots when you said D. Wayne Brown between him and the power plant. But I listened to a big thing on a podcast I was listening to where they were talking about Lash LaRue's history, and one of the things Lash talked about was going to the power plant and getting put through his paces by D. Wayne Brown. And my brain didn't even click until you talked about how he was at the power plant. That's actually amazing that the Leprechaun was the head trainer at the power plant. That's crazy.
Gotcha. Well, the Renegade and Hugh Morris start things off in the ring. But even the Booker's not super interested in this match, honestly, because immediately we find out that there's been a report of some kind of disruption in the backstage area. One cameraman goes sprinting off in the direction of the back to go see what's going on. We cut back into the ring. Somehow Alex Wright and the Barbarian are in the ring. Wright does hit a nice springing up to the top rope backflip splash onto the Barbarian. That's more or less going to be the only good thing we see of the match. Who knows? Maybe they put on a 5-star match out there in the ring and we just didn't get to see it. But because basically we cut to the back at this point to the master control room where the Outsiders tailgate party. At this point, I think maybe Hall and Nash have just been having a 3-week-long bender in Orlando and just staggering around drunk. And now they've showed up in the control room. They have some fun with reverb. Kevin Nash thinks that's really funny. Scott Hall, Nash says they're going to double everybody's salaries while Hall is telling them to have their house on wheels because they're not going to have jobs for long. So mixed messaging from the new owners coming. And then for whatever reason, they go get their headphones and then they start telling the cameraman to pan the crowd because they're looking for someone. And at this point, I'm like, okay, so what? Like Hogan's out in the crowd. That's what's going to happen. We're going to go out. We're going to see in the crowd, Hogan's going to be there. Okay. No. They never find anyone out in the crowd. They make them look 3 times, panning over the crowd. They don't find them, apparently. If there was a person, they didn't find him. So I don't know. I'm glad to see our boys. Obviously, that's what we're here to talk about is the NWO. I don't know. It's save me, guys. I'm trying to come up with things to say.
I want to hop in here. So after we're panning through the crowd and we're looking for our friend we never find, security finally shows up. And I don't know if this was scripted or if Nash and Hall were just on a bender and throwing shit out there. But Nash drops the line, everybody come to my locker room. We'll have pot pies and Mountain Dew.
Yes.
And
that's an Orlando party right there.
And let me look at Scott. What does Scott say? Oh, at one point when they're getting let out, Scott says, well, every party's got to have a pooper. And I'm just laughing my laughing my ass off in my chair. I was like, how are they drunk? How drunk are they? Because the most hilarious, like, non sequitur nonsense that I've ever seen. It was great. And I kept thinking to myself the whole time, there's got to be a payoff to this. There's got to be a Nope, no payoff.
No. And when the security guys do show up, Hall threatens to sue them if they touch him. And I'm like, I don't think that works that way. I'm pretty sure you're trespassing and they can do what they want to you at this point.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I had a couple of questions. One of them was, why are we sending the cameraman like from halfway around the ring opposite the entryway to go catch footage of this? Surely they have somebody closer. I don't know, maybe over by the entrance where where Gene does the interviews. And I really appreciated the fact that we got like 15 seconds of the cameraman's viewpoint as he was running in shaky cam mode, like Michael Bay was directing or something.
Ahead of its time, the
Yes,
WCW crew. I mean, maybe the camera guy that was down there by ringside saw his opportunity to not have to watch this match and just volunteered to go running to the back.
Yeah. This match exists so that the live crowd has something to watch while we watch what's really going on TV.
Right. Yeah, because they don't even have a screen or anything to like show what's going on. We pop back to the ring where unfortunately we do find that the match is continuing at this point. Leprechaun is theoretically a participant in this match, but he never actually gets up on the ring apron. His contribution, at one point, he grabs Joe Gomez's foot where the referee can clearly see it. We do get a little bit of a hero's journey as Jim Powers gets tagged in, that young, plucky Jim Powers, who then receives what I called the most popular move of the night, because for whatever reason, tonight it really felt like every heel's go-to move is throw the guy through the ropes to the outside. Like, I mean, it's not like they haven't been doing this on previous shows, but just, boy, every match they do this at least once. But for whatever reason, this is even more devastating to Jim Powers. He's down on the ground. He's beaten. I don't know if he was in there taking damage from, early in the match, or if he's just aware of what has happened to his career at this point. But he's taking a knee until Teddy Long comes down to give him a pep talk, which is apparently his job on the roster. And that pep talk fires him up. He's ready to go. He comes in. He does some good work. I didn't write down which one he's working with at the time, but he's got some pretty moves that he does when he's working in there. But the match breaks down into a full-on schmozzle in the ring, which the Giant comes out to the ring and breaks up by choke slamming the entire enemy team, which I will point out gets the bell to ring for a DQ. So progress, guys. We're sort of following the rules now, maybe. At one point, Alex Wright sees the Giant choke slamming people, and he has to like turn and go punch a different member of the DOD in the corner and act like he didn't see it. That's a segment that happened on this episode of Nitro. We'll go on to the interview after this, but if you guys have any other comments, or I don't know if you even that, like I said, you can't see the match, so you can't score the match. So
I was gonna say, my notes said, ow, those choke slams look like they would really hurt. I'm not gonna sign up for that one because I don't know if Giant was laying him in or if that was just how he did him in WCW, but that looked really hard. But I did put, it's really hard to rate this match because we weren't in the ring much. So how is it to say? So I left it as an enigma, no rating, because there just wasn't enough to go off of.
Yeah. I technically called it a dud, but the words immediately after that were, look, there's no fair to rate this match. As a segment, it wasn't completely terrible. In fact, as a segment, it was pretty entertaining, even if you really stop and pay attention to it, as very nonsensical.
Yeah. I mean, we're doing what is kind of becoming the classic outsiders move at this point of showing up and causing some light mischief that somehow earns the complete ire of everyone in WCW. Other than
Mhm.
power bombing Eric Bischoff, I'm kind of curious at this point if the outsiders have done anything bad at all since coming to the WCW, other than like trespassing. Mostly they just kind of show up, and that makes WCW people mad, apparently. But
They say things that are bordering on being mean.
okay, that's fair. They do call him Scheme Gene and the Nacho Man. So that's fighting words if ever there was some. Uh, so now that there's all of this carnage, bodies lying around the ring, as JR would put it, Shivani sends Gene into the ring with the Giant because somehow that's the safest place to be. I don't follow his reasoning on that one. But Gene pops in. Gene asks, or he asks the Giant about whether he's going to accept Hulk Hogan's challenge. And the Giant, maybe, I mean, he was fired up, like you said, Matt. He was not pulling any punches on those choke slams. I think he just came out really jacked up and ready to go for this thing because he delivers basically a face promo at this point, which I guess he's kind of the baby face now in this feud with the NWO. Um, he came in, talks about how his goal was to get the WCW title, and he did that. And he swore an oath to defend the WCW title whenever, wherever, which, that's your classic I'm going to be a fighting champion thing that you do for a babyface. Then he calls himself a cancer in the WCW that no one can cure. So back to the other side. He also implies that Hulk Hogan was in Hollywood trying to win an Oscar. So that's a pretty high opinion of Mr. Nanny. But ultimately, Giant accepts the call. So it is going to be the Giant versus Hollywood Hulk Hogan at Hog Wild with the WCW title on the line. Gene tries to give Jimmy Hart the mic for some parting words, but it's apparent that Jimmy is blown. He must have been working pretty hard on the outside of the ring during that match because all he could kind of do is huff out that the Giant will be ready at Hog Wild and kind of give the mic back to Gene. But yeah, I mean, I thought this was a really strong interview. It pushes Giant in a face-ish direction, which is kind of the best you can hope for here. But maybe it's good that he's still doing the cancer thing. I don't that analogy doesn't really lay on the Giant very well to me. I would think like a subtle person you would call a cancer, but ultimately I didn't hate this promo. Matt, are you with me on that one?
Yeah, I just wanted to throw in the funny moment from the beginning when Jimmy first gets in the ring and Mean Gene tells him to stop standing behind him because it makes him uncomfortable. I got a chuckle out of that. But clearly the Giant came out hot, hit those choke slams, and he was kind of gassed when he took out on the microphone because the promo was very breathy. Like I was like, man, put in his work and he's tired, but it was effective. It set the match up. It was a good promo, albeit a little bit breathy since we were gassed, but he did a pretty good job. And all around, I think he did a good job setting the stage for Hog Wild. So,
and to me, I don't know, Paul White always kind of sounds that way, even if he's sitting in a chair and is comfortable. I think it just takes a lot of air to run that body, honestly.
Yeah. That's exactly where I was going to go with that. That's just kind of the way that he cuts promos, especially at this point in his career. This is easily, this is episode 4, so we don't have a lot to compare it to, but this is easily the best promo that he's cut to this point while we've been watching. It's easily the best cut promo that he cut in anything that I watched to familiarize myself with what was going on. I think that he's excited to have something new to sink his teeth into.
I bet so. And honestly, I mean, if you're a young guy like him, you're setting up an angle in the main event with this huge NWO story, but still working with this legend Hulk Hogan. I don't know how you could not be pumped for it, honestly. Over the commercial break, we get a promo for WCW Saturday Night, which apparently is having some kind of tag team special because there's like four different tag teams that pop up with a lineup that I kind of felt was better than the lineup for the matches that we're watching here. I assume that's because Saturday night's probably pre-recorded, so they're putting matches in from other shows. But I didn't think it was maybe a great look to come off of the four jobbers versus the DOD rejects into. Well, you could be watching the Steiner brothers, the Nasty Boys, and the Booty Man. Is that
the
what
Booty Man and the Booty Babe?
Is that what
the Booty Man.
Brutus is calling himself now, huh? Okay.
Yep.
Well, let's
Yep.
look forward to seeing that. We come back and DDP and Prince Iaukea are in the ring already. Again, we don't know that because there's no commentary to tell us that. Nobody told Shivani and Heenan we were back from break, I guess. And the two of them have a quick match that I thought looked pretty good, honestly.
Yeah.
Like Iaukea, for being a guy who was clearly out here to put DDP over, like he looks great in the ring. He's fast. He's got some unorthodox offense. I also felt like DDP looks like he's edging in the direction of the DDP that we know later on. That the finish where he whips Iaukea into the corner, and as Iaukea staggers out, he comes off of the ropes into the diamond cutter. Previously, the diamond cutter we saw was like a standing turn around slowly and do the cutter thing. I came away from this match sad that it wasn't longer. I could have watched this for a good time.
Yeah, and I did some research too, because like I remember Prince Iaukea from watching WCW, but looking into it, if I'm not mistaken from what I read, this was his first match on Nitro, so this was like his big debut, and they put him in the ring with Paige because at this hand, Paige is a trusted hand, and also, it lets it. Like I covered at my review for the match, like both guys got their stuff in. Iaukea got to look good. Like he looked good as that bounty cruiserweighty kind of guy. And DDP got in a lot of his stuff. And like you said, we're getting looks like we're heading towards that DDP that towards the end of WCW can hit that diamond cutter out of nowhere and gets it from we'll see him as we move along. Some of the most creative ways to get into the diamond cutter are still to come. So, overall, it was a squash match, but it was a good squash match. I enjoyed myself. I mean, 1.5 stars is where I fell, which, felt generous, but I had fun watching it. So it wasn't like a dreg match like last week when we were having bad matches. Like this was actually a good filler match.
I think he even kind of does the bang.
He did.
So I don't know if that's the premiere of that or if he's been doing that for a while, but considering he's a heel, that's, we're starting to get DDP that we know, I think.
Yeah. The crowd has been warming to him over the last couple months. He's still pretty solidly over as a heel, but you can hear where the cheers are starting to pop in here and there. I was always a guy who when it comes to Prince Iaukea, I always felt like he did not get a fair shake. In WCW, I always thought he was one of the best talents that they had in the cruiserweight division. So I'm excited that we actually kind of just get to watch him from the start. It'll be interesting to see if he ever really gets a push. I know that there wasn't much one during the time period that I watched, but I had it like as minute and 39 match or minute 39 second matches go. This was like a 5-star. Minute 39 second match. It's a minute 39, so I can't justify giving it more than a star. And unfortunately, it is a little hard to take Prince Iaukea seriously at this point because we haven't seen him on Nitro, and apparently his only wins have been on like the B and C shows over the Jobbers and a guy like Manny Fernandez, who was really big in the late 70s and early 80s, and I'm pretty sure is like in his mid 50s at this point. But yeah, it was really good for what they let him have.
Yeah.
And also,
and I assume that I assume that we're leaving behind the whole where's DDP's ring thing at this point. We haven't heard anything about it in a while. I don't
That's
know.
where I was
Let's
headed
hope.
too. I was gonna say, I was like, whatever happened to the Lord of the Rings ring? Must have got thrown
Obviously,
into
he knows where it is
fountain.
because we're not wondering about it anymore.
Yeah. Next up, we've got a vignette with a very young Chavo Guerrero, which I, popped a little bit for that.
Yes.
Saying that Dean's faced his Uncle Eddie a lot, but now he's facing him. Statement of fact. Thanks, Chavo. Off to commercial. And when we come back, we get a recap of the brutal, and I think legitimately brutal, Taskmaster versus Benoit feud. I think in terms of like heat, uh, real heat or in ring heat, this is definitely the hottest feud that's running in the company right now. It was exciting for me because I hadn't gone back and watched the thing, so I got to see, this brawl that went into the bathroom previously, which, from the way Shivani and Dusty were kind of popping at it, I assume is still a pretty novel idea even at this point in time. But yeah, you can see where some of those shiners are coming from.
Yeah.
I did think it was kind of funny that I don't know why Dusty insists on saying horsemen, if you will. Like, no, they're horsemen. I don't know why you need to qualify it. Like, that's what they are. But yeah, we get some highlights from the bathroom brawl. We get some of the stuff at Bash on the Beach, including woman having to call Benoit off of Sullivan, which is there's going to be a little bit of that coming later too, and it still doesn't make any sense either way. But I think it was a good setup for this match. And they also talk about, oh, well, no, that's later on. We get to the ring. We've got Chavo versus Dean. And I made a note that Dean and Arn Anderson, now that Uncle Bubba isn't on this week's show, Dean and Arn Anderson are the ones who have the longest streak of appearing on the shows that we've been watching. And presumably, Dean is going to have that streak all to himself after this episode because Arn has the night off. So, congratulations, Dean, on winning the Last Man Standing, on showing up on every episode of the New Pod Order. Oh, yeah, here's where it was. They restacked Dean coming out to attack Benoit last week. We see our hero in blue jump up to try to save Eddie from Dean Malenko. At this point, I figured, okay, so we're restacking this, so that means Benoit's going to come out and get even on Dean during this match. I was incorrect.
You weren't the only one. I literally had a note that said, I wonder if that will foreshadow anything.
Yeah, nope. See, that's that WCW booking. It keep you guessing. Just when you think you got all the answers, they change the questions. We get a good, fast, acrobatic start to this thing. Shivani brings up that people were asking Dean on Saturday night if he was in the Dungeon of Doom. Shivani doesn't tell us what Dean said in response to that question, but he does bring up that the question was asked. Chavo's very quick. He gets a lot of quick offense in. Dean just always cuts him off. He'll hit some devastating gut buster, side suplex, a fall-away slam. This one's less about the holds on the mat. Dean is doing less of his man of 1,000 holds thing and more just being the powerhouse guy, which is always kind of funny considering he's usually shorter than the guy he's doing that to. But yeah, this match starts out, I think, pretty hot. It's rolling along pretty good as we hit what I think is my biggest disappointment of the night, which is we're going into hour 2 and the dynamite stick is gone. I hope that the Outsiders sabotage just made it so that they couldn't make the little graphic pop up, because if that's the last we've seen of you, Dynamite Stick, you will be missed. But yeah, so how do we feel about the first half of this match, JoJo?
Great. They're doing a really good job of pushing the pace, getting the crowd a little bit more into any of the matches than we've seen to this point. I liked the sequence where Chavo went up, or Chavo blocked a superplex up top. He had a diving sunset flip on Dean, and Dean came up out of it and just absolutely planted him with a stiff clothesline. Really good job of continuing to focus on this idea that Dean just isn't taking any shit from anybody after dropping the ball against Rey Mysterio.
Yep. Building him up as this unstoppable force in the cruiserweight division very effectively, I would say. Bischoff pops in at this point with his usual enthusiasm, but he comes in so hot he blows his microphone out, and apparently also Heenan's, because Heenan's mic isn't turned on. Then there's a crash cymbal sound in the background, and I was like, what the fuck is going on tonight, guys? I don't know. Maybe Uncle Kevin, Uncle Scott wandered back into the area, and one of them passed out on the soundboard. I don't know, but
yeah, the only thing more sad than the stick of dynamite not popping up was the hearing I'm never gonna get back, because I was wearing like full surround sound headphones turned up so I could hear the audio, and Bischoff came in so hot that it squealed in my ears, and I literally like threw my headphones on the floor and was like for like solid 30 seconds. I actually got in our Discord chat and was like, I'm pretty sure I'm going to be hearing impaired from now on. Thanks to Nitro. Oh, goodness.
The match is progressing, and now we're starting to get into a little bit of holds on the mat. And this time I am sure that there is a boring chant going on inside the arena. And I don't know why. A match is good. But this crowd, and I will say that this was true, I think, for most of the show, this crowd is here to be part of the show, not to enjoy the show. They are here to disrupt. Not just that dickhead, Marvin the Martian Kid, but like all kinds of people around this arena are, mugging into the camera. I forget which one, but one of the people comes out to like no heat at all, but you hear one section that's cheering, and that's, where the camera guy is shooting them. So they're cheering, but nobody else cares. This is not a great crowd for this show. No. But yeah, they started a boring chant and I wanted to go fight them.
Yeah. And also during the boring chant, I had it in my notes, that family that's on the hard cam side is fighting, putting each other in headlocks. They've basically gone into business for themselves. And I had in my notes, God, can we just bring back Purple Pants Mima? I am so tired of this family in the hard cam.
They could at least have kept them under control, because Purple Pants Mima don't take no shit. So
yeah. She would have grabbed the one dude's cane and used it on him, I'm pretty sure.
Which is a good thing she didn't, because he's popping up in this match too to support Chavo. I will admit, though, that when Chavo is in a hold, he doesn't do a lot to fight from underneath. He kind of just lays there. I mean, he's selling. But he's not like trying to get out while he's in there. So that's maybe an area that could have improved and might have avoided this devastating boring chant. But I don't know. I think this crowd, to use your term, was in business for themselves, and we're just shitting on this match. So I kind of feel for the two superstars. Jimmy Hart shows back up again because he gets paid by the appearance on these shows, apparently. He also, apparently, the whistle button on his horn is stuck because he's just running it continuously the whole time he's out there. But he's presumably, given the angle that we've seen, he's out here to support Dean and, try to sell him on jumping over to the Dungeon of Doom. But he ends up inadvertently distracting him, lets Chavo get a roll up on him. And eventually we head over towards our finish. Chavo goes for a nothing, as you put it, but Heenan calls it a flying body scissors, which I don't think that would work. Just thinking to a physics class, I think that you would not have enough mass to do anything there. But it does look good because Dean catches his legs, drops him on his back, pops him over into the clover leaf, and we get our tap out from there. Joe, I mean, I think we all liked the match. The ending, the last half may have kind of hurt the first half, but where do you kind of put the whole thing together at?
I felt like it was I felt like it's about a 3-star match. I think and most of where it was at that level, I think you're right. The second half was not as exciting as the first. I did have a note though. In that finishing sequence, Chavo goes ahead and he charges Dean in the corner. Dean goes ahead and does a backdrop type move to send him over the ropes, but he lands on the apron. So apparently it's not a disqualification if you land on the apron. You only get DQ'd if you go all the way to the floor. I don't know.
We're going to drive ourselves insane trying to understand WCW's rules. Eventually, we're going to have to let this bit die because they're just not going to be consistent.
I know, but just because of the fact that they actually did ring the bell on one earlier, right. I had to point it out. I also kind of thought it was really funny that like Jimmy comes out, makes a whole bunch of noise. Dean gets pissed, gets distracted. Almost gets pinned because of it. The bell rings for the match, and Jimmy is just out of here. There is no sticking around to try and sell Dean on the idea of joining the dungeon. But Marvin the Martian makes sure to get into it with Jimmy on Jimmy's way out.
Yes, and that will be the feud that has the most heat this show. Jimmy Hart versus that family in front of the hard cam. Matt, where do you land on it?
Yeah, I was gonna say I really enjoyed the match. There was one spot that I really enjoyed that we didn't mention at one point. Dean had Chavo in a double behind his back chicken wing where Chavo reversed out of it with a reverse drop kick, which was a pretty athletic spot that I enjoyed. I ended up calling it about a 2.5 stars. I think Chavo there's a little, I won't say he's super green, but I think he's just green enough. Like you said, he wasn't putting on a good show, getting out of submissions. I think he was the source of the boring chant. So I didn't actually think it was that boring, but as a whole, I don't just thought that, I mean, it was better than anything we saw last week. So kudos for that. But yes, 2.5 stars is about the best I could go.
And the match ends. And Eric Bischoff drops some more insightful commentary saying that the crowd's really getting into this match after the match is done. And this is where I kind of paused for a second to talk about Mr. Bischoff as a commentator. Because in my opinion, Eric could give Vince McMahon a run for his money for being bad at being the play-by-play man. And what I did point out was at least Vince would react to the moves that are happening in the ring. The joke always being the what a maneuver, like everything was a what a maneuver, but at least he said something in response to what was going on in the match. Maybe tonight was extra bad, but like he's just not even talking about, I mean, and it's not in like we're talking about the angles going on in the backstage. He's just kind of rambling about the wrestlers and stuff. He sounds like a color guy. It sounds like they have 2 color guys up there.
Yeah.
Okay, agreed.
Yep. No notes.
Yeah.
No notes.
No notes. 10 out of 10. You're right.
All right. Well, we got a vignette coming up, heading into the break. We got Meng and Jimmy Hart. They're setting up the match with Ice Train that's coming up. I have a note. Does Meng have a different haircut in the vignette than he does during the match? I don't know if he's just got it tied down super tight, but like it looks like he's got short hair in the interview, and then he's got the same hair that we saw last week when he gets to the ring. Yeah, okay. So we come back. Bischoff and Heenan get a little camera time. They're putting over the Giant versus Hogan match, as well as announcing that Luger and Sting are going to face the Outsiders at Hog Wild. So we've got 2 members of Team WCW versus the Outsiders, and Luger and Sting are former tag team champions. So this isn't just a thrown together team. These guys have worked together before. This is an established team. They talk a lot about Hog Wild. Somewhere in here, Bischoff talks about that big gang of bikers that's going to be driving from Atlanta to Minnesota. And I honestly wondered, did they put this, did Eric book this pay-per-view as just a boondoggle for him to get to go on a bike ride with his buddies across America? They also really hint at all of the crazy things that happen at Sturgis, which Matt and I have heard of a few of those things from our family friends Walt and Vaughn over the years. But these are not things I am sure that we will see at the pay-per-view. So kind of a false build-up there on that one. But we go to our next match. We got Ice Train versus Meng. And going into this, I'm like, okay, so Ice Train's going to get squashed by Meng is what's going to happen here. Oh yeah, this is the one. This is the part where Ice Train comes out and nobody's cheering for him outside of one section of the arena
Yes.
where the camera guy is shooting the crowd. Um, and this is where we
Meanwhile,
also
on commentary, I think this is the hardest that Bobby Heenan has ever worked to put over a face.
probably.
Like he is all about people think this guy is dumb because he's a rookie. He's smarter than they give him credit for. He was a guy who started a year ago and realized that he wasn't ready and went to take time off to go train some more. That's a smart man who's doing his homework and honing his craft. I was like, wow, Bobby, this is completely unlike you.
There's been a few of those. Like I think last week, it was like Eddie and Benoit, where like he's just like, this is going to be a great match. Like, just frankly is, you always think of Heenan as like this super heel, but I think especially as his color role here in WCW, he's a lot closer to a tweener than I remembered.
Yeah.
At least from the stuff we've seen. What's less great is that Meng comes out. And Bischoff discusses how Samoans were cannibals 100 years ago, to which Heenan responds, "You wouldn't have surprised me if you said last Thursday." Went to Wikipedia, did a little look up here. Per information that University of Pennsylvania website has posted on their site, anthropological consensus indicates cannibalism was never a systemic or widespread tradition in Samoan society. So Eric just kind of talking out of his butt there. Let's move on
also,
past that.
Meng is not even Samoan anyway. He's Tongan.
Yeah. No, he's not doing the Samoan death grip as his finisher.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was going to make a joke earlier that I assume Prince Iakea is from somewhere in Roman Reigns' family tree too, but I think they just claim the entire Polynesian society as member of the Hawaii family. My take from this match is actually not bad. Like, I kind of didn't have high hopes going into it, but this is just a good heavyweight on heavyweight type of match. And where I figured this was going to be Meng as the established guy versus the rookie, kind of working like from on top most of it, this is actually a lot closer to being a 50-50 match. Ice Train's in charge for a lot of this match. And I mean, it looks like these guys are kicking the crap out of each other in there. Matt, you got any thoughts?
Yeah, no, I thought it was a pretty effective big man match. I did at one point, of course, write down we got some good big meaty men slapping meat in there, but there was a couple athletic spots. There was one where I think Ice Train goes in for what basically equates to a flying nothing, and Meng hits him with a super kick that's so square that I thought Ice Train might have gotten knocked unconscious, because I mean, he's up off the ground and it just leveled him, and I was like, it's in my own head, I was like, damn, that looked like that hurt. But yeah, it was a pretty good match for what it was, and you could tell they were trying to legitimize Ice Train heading into the pay-per-view, because you need to at least have some believability in that Norton versus Ice Train match. So
yeah, and I mean, a super kick, that's the sell. Like, that's not the kick that makes that look good. So I kudos to Ice Train for taking it well. Also, Joe, I see you nodding.
Yeah. No, this is really good stuff. Now, I know that we just got done being critical of the announcers for being overly stereotypical when talking about Polynesian wrestlers. However, going back to Bobby's point about Ice Train being a student of the game, there's a point in the match where Ice Train goes to headbutt Meng. And of course, everyone knows that, headbutting, I mean, we typically oversimplify it to say that you don't headbutt a Samoan, but really you don't headbutt any Polynesian wrestler. But Ice Train headbutts him like in the shoulder instead of the head. So he's done his research.
There you go. See? No, I think Ice Train came out of this match looking like $1 million.
There's a part of me that that thinks that it may be a good idea to spend some time figuring out what the story is with Ice Train past this point, because like I've generally been pretty impressed with what I've seen from him so far.
Yeah, I worry it's some kind of Ahmed Johnson stuff or something like that. That like, because and he does. I mean, maybe he's just playing this character, but he seems like he's got a great attitude. He's happy,
Mhm.
a big, charismatic guy. He throws some chops at one point so hard that he comes halfway out of his singlet. That was impressive. He has to get rolled back in the ring and pull it back on.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah, and Meng gets back into the ring very deliberately to give him the time to fix that strap.
Right. Yeah. We don't need to see the little ice train coming out to make an
It's
appearance.
it, I mean, it, hey, how many times have we said it's the little things?
The crowd is not apparently as into this as us because they're basically busy chanting "You suck, Jimmy" at Jimmy Hart the whole time. I mean, that's fun. They're having a good time. Jimmy's playing into it well, covering his ears up and stuff. Um, but I think generally it's not good if the manager's getting more heat than what's going on in the ring. Generally speaking. One little criticism of Ice Train's game. There's a point where like he almost looks like he's sticking his chin out for Meng to headbutt it. That also could have just been the cameraman not doing them any favors. But yeah, they go back and forth. There's one spot that like I actually was really I kind of marked on was where they've got Meng over in the corner and he chops him and like the sweat off of Meng sprays up onto the lens of the camera. That was pretty wild. And yeah, then our finish is that nothing, the double axe handle into that crescent kick that Meng does so well, taking him down to the ground. But this isn't the finish in terms of a clean win because at this point we head to the outside and Norton shows up out of the back and bounces Meng off of the post, getting another disqualification. Um, the announcers are as confused as I am at this point until Norton gets into the camera and basically says that he's got Ice Train's back until Hog Wild because he wants him to have no excuses when he beats him. Interesting angle. Not one I saw coming. I thought there was maybe going to be like, we're having a problem, but nobody's going to beat up my tag team buddy like that, but no, he's just, making sure he gets Ice Train clean. And it's a good way to get out of this match without taking any heat off of Mang or Ice Train. But yeah, good match, weird finish, kind of the theme of the night. Joe, where do you land on this one as far as a score?
So as a match, it's like 2.25 stars. It's a good solid Haas match, as a lot of people would put it. But as a segment, I leaving out questionable stereotypes. Sorry, as a storyline progression, this was like 5 stars to me. I loved it. The DQ. This is the rare DQ finish that actually helps the story that we're telling. It isn't literally a DQ finish just to protect somebody. This is we're establishing who Ice Train and Scott Norton are and making sure that there's some stakes for the match that they have coming up.
It's kind of wild, but that's the match at Hogwild that I think has had the best build so far. Matt, same thoughts?
Yeah, I finished more at a 2-star range. I thought it was a solid big man match. I guess I thought the ending with Norton was a bit weirder than Joe did. I didn't I get it. I get where he's coming from, but I kind of fell flat for me. And I don't know, maybe it's because I'd fallen into the fans trap and not being very into it by the end, but I don't know. It just didn't do it for me. We'll see how it pays off at the pay-per-view. Maybe the two of them go on to put a banger in a couple weeks, but we'll know that in a couple weeks.
I'm legitimately excited to see it at this point. So it's worked on me. We get a recap at this point of the last couple of weeks of the NWO story with a narrator over the top. They show some things out of order to build the drama, but it works. And we head into the break with an Eddie Guerrero vignette. So a double Guerrero vignette night. He tells Psychosis his family's taught him to never underestimate an opponent, especially one he's already beaten. At which point we go into more Glacier commercial. Time for more DDR Kung Fu. And we come back to Psychosis versus Eddie Guerrero. They're setting up that Eddie is facing Ric Flair for the U.S. title at Hog Wild. So that's another big one to kind of get ready for. And, we keep throwing Eddie's praises out every week. And I mean, it's deserved. And like, it almost feels to me like he's kind of growing into this role that he has as the few weeks have gone along, because like coming out to the ring, he even stops and like does a quick, one or two sentences into the camera, telling people not to change the dial. He is over. The minute they get started, the crowd is chanting Eddie, Eddie, Eddie. So, I mean, he's got him eating out of his hands in this thing. Out of the two of them, so I forget if it's Bischoff or Heenan, but one of them says that out of the two Guerreros in here, Eddie might be with the one with more of a mean streak, which seems like kind of a weird thing to say about a face, but uh, prophecies of things to come. But yeah, they start off with some really fast, really pretty mat work. Again, these guys have probably wrestled each other almost as many times as Eddie and Benoit have gone at it. They're going so fast the commentators can't keep up, which is not that Eric is really trying, but Heenan is trying, and they just basically give up on trying to follow it along. It looks great, and it gets the Eddie chance going in the ring. I just marked a couple of high spots in. There's a bit where Psychosis goes in to, I don't know, do like a crotch first at Eddie in the ring or in the corner. Lands with both of his legs up on the top rope and bounces out and like just lands on his head. Looked pretty devastating, which Psychosis has very little regard for his own body, so it may have been pretty painful, but looked great. There's a spin kick Psychosis hits off of the top rope, followed by a suicide dive to Eddie on the outside of the ring. This is where Eddie almost gets thrown into Marvin the Martian's lap, and the kid is like screaming down into his face. I'm just begging him, please, Eddie, just one slap. It'll be worth the assault penalties. Just do it. There's a point where Eddie hits a standing Frankensteiner, which Eric describes as a leg type takeover. Very impressive. Oh, right. And I mentioned this because then Eddie does like a tilt-a-whirl backbreaker thing that he does a lot. And the commentators say Ric Flair better be taking notes because this may be stuff that he's going to have to face. And I'm just like, I don't see Flair taking very many of those moves in that match. And then, yeah, there's and then we'll start heading to the finish. But before we get over to that, you guys, I'll toss the ball over to you. What were you thinking on this thing?
Yeah, I was gonna say I really enjoyed the beginning of it. Like it started off with some good lucha mat work. You picked up the pace a little bit. You talked about that gore, that suicide dive that was basically a gore. Like the still frame of that is like just art. Is just a piece of artwork. Like I want to hang that on my wall. It's so great. And even the commentators are like, "Oh man, he gored him with those horns, with the little floppy horns on Psychosis."
Devastating horns.
But yeah, no, it was really good. You can tell Eddie and Psychosis are comfortable working with each other. They're putting on a good match. You have another weirdly attempted heel versus face match, which the fans are very into. So again, WCW booking heels to work with faces. Who knew that would work? But yeah, it was a very, very good match.
I legitimately had a thought while I was watching this, like maybe somebody else booked this show, like than has booked the last couple that we've seen. Because, like, not just we've got our traditional heel versus face matchups, but there are actual disqualifications that happen. Suddenly, the over the top rope thing is a DQ when it wasn't before. I mean, it's just speculation on my part, but it felt like a different show than the ones that we had seen before.
Yeah, so regarding the heel versus face, I wonder how much of that was just personnel they had on hand with folks being in Japan. Um,
I'm going to
I
push back
don't
on that because the week
I
before
don't
that
yeah
wasn't the
I
case,
mean
and it was still
I I'm not saying that it's acceptable either way. You should be able to plan things out. So
Mhm.
even if that was the issue, you should have better planning skills than to have that be the issue. Um, but like we know that a lot of the guys that they specifically mentioned being gone for being in Japan were faces.
Yeah, definitely.
But as far as more keeping it to this match, my note was that I felt like Psychosis left a lot of money on the table in this match. Uh, on the way to the ring, during the entrances, he stops and he does the Triple H water spit before Triple H is doing the water spit. Don't know if that's something that he's done before or if that was just a tonight thing. Um, he gets the gore call when he does the suicide dive. It's like, man, I was really waiting for him to do one more thing that a different wrestler turns into a money spot later.
Mm-hmm. No, and he felt like he was mugging more this week too. Like he had
Yeah.
some, his little karate thing that he does a lot, but like he's up on the turnbuckle at one point and doing like the cross thing to get some heat on him.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I agree. I will say that like of the two Eddie Psychosis matches, I think I like the one before better than this one. I'm not sure. I have a hard time putting my finger on what exactly didn't quite land the same way the second time around. But I just think generally speaking, I think Psychosis was a little more out of control if possible in this one. And there are a couple of things that are not that look like he was just throwing himself and Jesus take the wheel. And we'll see what happens. I did chuckle at the beginning of the match when like Eddie does an arm drag to him and Psychosis gets up complaining about him grabbing his hair.
Yes.
It's an arm drag, dude. He didn't grab your hair. Also, it's not your hair, but never mind.
Again, like we talked about last time they wrestled, he knows that Eddie lies, cheats, and steals.
That's true. That's true. The book is out on Mr. Guerrero. Benoit showed us that last time too.
Yeah, blue shirt guy also tries to hand Eddie his cane while Eddie's laying on the floor in front of Martian Manhunter or Marvin the Martian Kid. So word's getting around.
Well, maybe he just wanted him to clock the kid with it. The finish, Psychosis goes off for a twisting senton where I think he dropped more of his weight on Eddie than he really meant to. That one looked like it hurt for real. I don't think Eddie had to really sell on that one. But he comes back, gets that standing Frankensteiner, goes into a frog splash. Maybe part of why this one didn't land as well was it felt like that ending was a little bit out of nowhere, or like a hey, we gotta go home, because like the whole show felt like everybody was short on time the whole way through. So I don't know if it basically started after the outsider thing. So I wonder if that match and the promo afterwards with the Giant just went super long. But like for the rest of the show, it felt like everything had to be cut short. But yeah, Matt, final score on this one before we head to the main event.
I guess maybe I was more peachy and high on it, but I thought that it was a 3.5-star match. I thought it was really good. I'll take even what you called maybe a down Psychosis versus Eddie Guerrero every week, maybe twice a week if you want to give it to me, because I just think they've got such good chemistry and the matches are well constructed. So I thought it was really good.
Yeah, I don't think it was bad. It's like good pizza and less good pizza for me, but it's still pizza.
Ironically, I had the previous match as the less good pizza personally, but like I went 3 3/3 on this one versus 3.5 on the other. So we're splitting hairs at this point, I feel like. But yeah, no, my note literally was that was some good shit. Things have picked up after a slow start.
I mean, I see how it is. You two have clearly gotten together and you're siding against me on this show. I understand. It's fine. I'm not afraid to have my own opinions.
Listen, it's not our fault that you're wrong.
I was gonna say that's what happens when you have all the power.
Yeah, that's true. It's gone to my head. Speak. This isn't a segue. Speaking of going to your head, whatever. It's the Horsemen versus Team WCW. Where the Horsemen are also WCW. But anyway, Horsemen are coming out to the ring to Ric Flair's music. One problem: there's no Ric Flair. We just got Benoit and Mongo. The valets are actually outnumbering the wrestlers on the way down to the ring. Um, they pop up onto the apron, and the crowd again. Heenan is pushing the line that Rick is. He just wants to make an entrance. That's why he's not here yet. They come back from the commercial to a shot of Arn knocking on the windows of a limo that's been parked outside of the stadium, peering in, trying to see who's in there. And apparently, who is not in there is not Ric Flair, because Arn has to go to the ring to take his spot. And it's at this point, if I could be serious for a minute, Arn, you're better than this, man. Like, I know you've got a lot of history with the Horsemen. You've had a long career. You've had a good run with them. But this is an abusive relationship. They're taking advantage of you. And it's okay to stand up for yourself and get out of this situation. So, Arn, we support you if you decide to step away from this abusive Horseman relationship, because really, this is 4 weeks in a row now, man. Like, wake up and smell the good coffee on this thing. But yeah, seriously, what the heck? Why is Arn always got to eat shit every episode for the Horseman? This is supposed to be his night off, man.
Not even supposed to be here today. Hey, we're related. Who knew?
Apparently.
Look, he heard that Dean was going to get one up on him on the consecutive show streak, and he couldn't have that.
Yeah. So the angle here, I guess, is like the speculation. Well, if Rick's not here, is he joining the NWO? Is he a new guy for the NWO? Nothing. Not spoilers, but nothing comes of this. They mention it on the next episode, but Rick just shows up for this match. They run it back and just do this match with Rick instead of Arn, and nothing ever comes of this from this point on. So I don't know. I guess at this point, Rick is just face down in a pile of blow with a couple of ladies in a hotel room or something, and just no-showed the Nitro taping. Yeah.
My issue is why did we go with, oh my God, is Rick joining the NWO? Why didn't we go with, wait, is that where Hall and Nash went? Was to go take out Flair so he couldn't be in this match? Like, I feel like that would have been a way better question to ask, because putting Flair in the NWO with Hogan would have been the stupidest thing ever.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I guess it would have been burying Rick if, like, they come out of a room or something. The outsiders come out of a room and they're just like, so much for the Nature Boy, and walk off. Like, you could do that without him there, but he's a legend. You probably shouldn't do that to him. But, yeah, I agree. Like, that would have at least made sense. It would have been not just a nothing like what this is. And I mean, the other nothing is that limo, because we don't know who's in the limo. Like, we never find out. It was just there to ask a question that we don't get to know the answer to, apparently. Team WCW comes out. Sting's wearing what I called a pink Freddie Mercury jacket. And he's walking to the ring blissfully unaware of the fact that he thinks this is going to be a 6-man match, but really this is going to be a 1-on-3 match with him versus all 3 Horsemen, and Luger and Macho just chilling on the apron the whole time. Highlights: Macho and Luger go to the wrong corner at the start of the match and have to be directed to go stand on the one closer to the hard cam. Which is also usually not where you put the faces. So maybe the Horsemen went to the wrong corner. I don't know. But we start off Sting versus Arn. So we're rematching from 2 weeks ago. Arn pushes Sting. Sting pushes Arn so hard he falls down. Sting's coming out hot. He's hitting everybody. Just taking on all 3 Horsemen all by himself. He gets cut off when Mongo actually comes off the middle rope with a shoulder block that looks not too bad. Match goes to the outside. Everybody's jumping on Sting. Macho comes around for the save, so they roll Sting back in and get out of the way. Then Macho starts chasing the valets around the ring, presumably trying to get at Miss Elizabeth. Benoit gets in and delivers his usual, like, brutal looking beating onto Sting out there in the ring. I actually found myself kind of wishing that we could see. I don't know if they do. I mean, I assume at some point Benoit and Sting face each other, but I'm kind of looking forward to that match because I think that would be interesting to see. But then Mongo gets tagged in, and we all start to hold our breath because Mongo's here. We know it's just a matter of time. He goes for a neck breaker on Sting. Again, not bad. Then he goes for a drop kick again. Not bad. Mongo is doing okay in this match. Does it look like Frankenstein's monster? Yes. But the guy's name is Mongo, for crying out loud. What do you expect? We get a quick check on our limo where like security is looking in the door, and apparently there's just nobody there. So Heenan suggests maybe they should just tow him away. And yeah, we're heading towards the midway point here, guys. Thoughts on this whole situation we've got going on with the Horsemen and the opening of this match, Matt?
Yeah, no, I thought it was really weird. I guess I didn't have the knowledge of what came of it or where it was going. So in the moment, I was kind of still thinking, well, geez, how are we paying off this limousine? What's going to happen with this? Is this how we're going to derail the match? I mean, in my mind, I was like, we haven't had a lot of NWO content today. Maybe at some point Hogan's going to pop out of there. Spoiler, as you said, he doesn't. So that portion of it, weird. The match itself, the Four Horsemen are doing a good job keeping Sting isolated and being the heels. I guess I had in my mind, you said Macho and Luger basically did nothing. I had in my mind in my mind's eye, I can envision Macho on the ground, running around on the outside, distracting the ref on more than one occasion, which kept Sting isolated. So
sorry, they don't do anything helpful. I'll put it that way.
There we go. I will accept that because in my mind's eye, I remember thinking to myself, boy, Macho is doing some Macho things, but he is really screwing Sting over here because every time it looks like Sting's going to do it, Macho pops up in the background and is attacking a Horseman from the ground, and the ref is forced to look away, leaving Sting isolated in their corner. So, no, it was a good match. So, not to this point, albeit with a confusing start.
Maybe the thought from Sting and Luger with facing the outsiders is like, maybe if we get rid of Macho Man, we'll be okay going forward. Joe, where are you at with it?
It's a really good start. The Stinger's bumping his ass off, especially for Mongo, and that's not to like sell Mongo short. Mongo actually looks pretty solid in this match, but Sting is absolutely making every to the point that we have discussed so far. Mongo looks really good in this match. We're getting to the not good part. Trust me, I have notes about the not good part, but
yes,
I was gonna say I could look at your background and I see that this is gonna turn on Mongo.
Yeah,
that's true. It is immediately behind Joe. Spoilers.
Yes,
we do get Arn.
Yeah, no, like Sting. Sting is absolutely in more than one way carrying this match.
Yep. When there's one set of footprints, that's where Stinger was carrying you. We get back in. Arn's been tagged in at some point here. Sting starts to get a comeback, goes to go for the tag. Arn gets that sweet hook your legs with my legs thing to stop you from running away. And then Arn tags in Mongo, and as we sort of foreshadowed, it all goes wrong. Time to play a little game. Matt, what was supposed to happen here?
So I guess I put it in my notes that it looked like they were going for a back suplex or some sort of backdrop, and Mongo doesn't get a hold of it very well. And it looks like to me that Sting tried to bail him out when he was half up, half over, and tried to reach out and try to stabilize himself on the ropes. Maybe Mongo was supposed to hold him up for a stall drop, and Sting realized, oh shit, he doesn't have me, and tried to bail him out and made the situation infinitely worse. Because with your arm stuck out in the ropes like that, if Mongo comes down fast, that's a good way to break your arm or dislocate your shoulder. So all things told, with how this played out, what happened was probably the best outcome, because Sting doesn't get hurt. Does it look like absolute dog water? Yeah. But Sting at least is in one piece after it, and Mongo gets to continue to wrestle in the main event. Because I'm pretty sure if that had gone badly and Sting got hurt, we probably would not have seen Mongo this high of the card ever again.
We might have been down to 3 horsemen. Yeah. So basically, what we see is Mongo trying to lift him. It looks like he's just trying to deadlift him. I don't know if the timing was off, Sting didn't jump or what, but yeah, he's got hold of the ropes. That's you can see on the picture behind Joe there. And yeah, he just kind of drops him. So there's our Mongo. We knew he was there somewhere. I'm being mean. He actually had a good match outside of this one little bit here. Yeah. So eventually we get our hot tag to Luger, who exists in a perpetual state of hot tag. In my notes, it just says Sting tags in Luger, who proceeds to do some Lugering.
I believe I put in my note, here comes Luger with a hot tag. Finally, his bad offense can shine.
Lots of clotheslines and forearm smashes and things like that. He's good at it, so he does it well. He looks great. He sounds like he's being stabbed as he's doing a lot of this, but he's working his butt off in there, doing everything. Eventually, we go back to a schmozzle. Everybody's in the ring now. Everybody's fighting, and it's at this point I thought, okay, here's where the NWO shows up, right? Like they run out to the ring, they jump everybody, they beat them down. Horsemen, WCW guys, doesn't matter. Beat them all down. I could not have been more wrong. We cut to the outside of the ring where Deborah is trying to hand the briefcase of money that Mongo has been carrying around into the ring to one of the horsemen. I'm not sure which one was closest, but woman inexplicably comes in and steals the briefcase from her. Again, don't know what's going on there. Weird face turn that woman is trying to do in the middle of being a member of the Horsemen. This is twice now that she's tried to stop them from, doing something untoward. But then Macho shows up and gets hold of the briefcase, which we find out apparently was full of Macho's money. So canonically, we used Macho Man's money to bribe Mongo to get him into the Four Horsemen. Okay. Why the Horsemen don't believe in banks, I'm not sure. But there must be a decent amount of cash in there because Macho uses it to slap Benoit in the back, and that gives us our finish. So again, the good guys cheat to win the match. Macho Man is never tagged in at any point in this thing, so pretty easy night of work for him. But Benoit gets slapped, gets rolled up for a 1-2-3. And as they go to the break, Heenan suggests that maybe they should get out of here. And maybe I agree with him at this point. I'm not sure. Joe, put it all together for us on this main event that we just watched.
All right. So, let's see. Where do we start? We have in the schmoz, we have Arn raking Savage's eyes, and then Randy backdrops him over the top rope. But the referee, actually, you could plausibly say that the referee did not see this one. So we're left hanging with like a one each way, and I don't know as to whether over the top DQ is actually a thing or not, in case you wanted to keep score on that.
And maybe you've got to be the legal man to go over the top rope for a DQ.
I don't know.
Maybe Arn wasn't the legal man. I don't know.
But as far as the briefcase thing is concerned, I'm wondering if the intent was for woman to be grabbing the briefcase because she saw Macho coming and was trying to keep it away from him. That's the only thing that I could think of that makes what happened make sense. But it's actually kind of funny because while that's going on, Sting goes to roll up Mongo, and the ref goes ahead and counts, even though neither one of them is the legal man.
He wanted to get out of there too, apparently.
Yeah, I don't blame him. Mostly because of the early stuff, I had it as like a 1.5 stars. It just really fell apart very quickly at the end. The last thing that I noted was after Macho chases the women around the ring with the briefcase, he lays it down, dented side up, as the referee jumps out of the ring to ask him whether he used it on Benoit.
Nope, wasn't me. Dirtiest player in the game, Macho Man Randy Savage. Oh boy.
I was gonna say I ended up at about 1 3/4 star. I was sports entertained temporarily, so it did its job. I thought the one thing I wanted to point out is I thought it was really wild, and like I paused the video to check the progress bar. I thought it was wild throwing the commercial with 4 minutes left in the show. 4 minutes.
Yeah.
Well, one of multiple confusing timing choices that went on in this thing, and we're not done with them yet. I mean, like Joe, to your sort of thought, if woman is taking it to stop Macho from getting it, the commentators don't know that either, because they're all over like, what's she doing? Why is she stopping him? So I don't know if that was part of the angle or if they're just trying to improv. We'll have to see what happens with woman going forward. But for now, she's a woman of mystery up to this point. We go to the break. We come back and it's interview time with the faces. Somebody throws some trash towards the ring. Gene says, "Hey, lady, don't throw your underwear in here. It's in bad taste." To which Macho shouts, "It's okay," into the microphone. So swinging single Macho Man, he and Elizabeth are broken up, so he's ready to party. We hear from Luger about how he was feeling, and this is the promo where we're like, I don't know, maybe Macho didn't get his madness pills because Luger and Sting took them, because they're a hyper kid giving Mountain Dew in this thing. But Luger was feeling kind of.
Oh, sorry, real quick before you get going with it. My note here, and I think that this is important because of the way the promo ends up working out. I say, Gene's starting with Sting. Wise move based on what we've seen so far. I'm guessing he'll handle the takeoff, get it up in the air, hand the controls over to Lex because keeping the plane in the air is the easy part, and then they'll hand it over to Savage to bring it in for the landing, or maybe just fly the thing out into space, because either one of those things is a success in Macho's book.
Yep. And I mean, that's the formula as we go along through it. So they don't call him the brain for nothing, folks. But Stinger gets on the mic and says that last week Luger was feeling kind of down, as you would after getting beaten by 3 dudes and taking the jackknife powerbomb, which of all of the finishers that there are, the jackknife is the one that maybe I would want to take least of all, because he just drops your ass. Like, there's no protection. You're just falling from Kevin Nash head height to the ground. So I imagine he's probably not feeling too great. But now the total package and the Stinger aren't feeling down. They're feeling kind of mean. And then we have an astrology discussion at this point. I didn't go look. Joe, did you look up Hall and Nash's birthdays to see if this is accurate?
I didn't. I should have.
Quick Google while I'm going along here. Okay. We apparently Sting does know the outsiders' birthdays, and he says that he was flipping in the horoscope section, and he says that Hog Wild is going to be a bad day for your sign. He seems to have forgotten what he was going to say at that point, but Gene prompts him that they're Leos, and so it ends with Sting saying, "That makes both of you guys Leos." And God, what a dweeb Sting is! Like, good Lord.
So Kevin Nash, Cancer.
Nope. Okay, not
Scott
a Leo.
Hall, Libra.
Sounds like Leo. Close.
But I did want to say, since we were joking about the taking the Macho pills, after he says it's gonna be a bad day for Leos. He looks right in the camera and goes, "Yeah," and I was like, "Yep, he's sold in. He knows he's saying crazy shit, and he's got to go for it."
Yeah, I'm skipping ahead, but like in the middle of Macho Man's time to talk, he pops in and like puts his hand up in front of the camera like
Yes.
Macho Man too. So like
Yeah.
maybe they had a bet in the back. They were like, we can outdo the Macho Madness this week. So I don't know, but it's wild because then Luger comes in and he's still on the hot tag. Like he's still just short of running back and forth and clotheslining Gene. He does make a pretty eloquent point where he talks about how the outsiders have shown nothing but disgust and disdain for all of them. Well stated, I would say. Luger's going to stand up for WCW and everything the company stood for over the years. I wrote not a bad promo, honestly. Luger does of the three. I think he does the best job. And then we go over to Savage, and again, I get this feeling like they're running long, and someone's told him, you've got to wrap it up, which is wild. Of all of the people to cut short, why cut off Randy Savage? But anyway, his main point is that he looks into the camera and just says flat out, Hogan, you're not going to make it down the aisle to face the giant because he's going to jump him and kick his head in. Seems like the kind of thing you'd probably keep secret if that's what you were going to do, but madness. And there's nothing that Hogan's bikers, I didn't know that he had bikers, but he had nothing that his bikers, the army, the navy, or the militia can do about it. He is fired up to the point that he's like spitting out a glob of phlegm onto his face as he's talking. If the promo itself is a bit paint by numbers, we got a date. Don't be late, sucker. So stealing some Booker T lines too at the end there. Okay, so we at least have a Macho Man promo at this point. So it's time for the madness. Oh yeah! What are we thinking, guys? Matt, where are we at on the Macho Madness scale?
Well, I had to tie a bow around all of it because everybody was high on the Macho Supply. So for the entire main event angle, I'm going to give you a good old 3 on the Macho scale.
Okay, we got a 3 from Matt. Where are you at, Joe?
I was thinking something similar, like 2 3/4. If we were just scoring for Macho, I think it's by his standards a 2. But Sting and Luger really brought their would it be their M game since it's Macho? I don't know.
I don't have a 2 3/4, so you get the 3 again.
Yeah.
The thing that's
sorry, I'll try to keep it to integers in the future.
The thing that's wild is that from my perspective, as far as Randy's part of it went, this is as close to a 1 as we've seen. This is just a normal ass promo. Like he's like, I'm gonna beat you up at the pay-per-view, and there's nothing you can do about it. That's all it is. No weird analogy.
If he hadn't thrown in the Navy, the Army, and the militia, I might have fallen in at the same level. But at least he got a little bit of out of left field into it.
Yeah, it was that and the just it was intense as hell.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Yeah, he looks like he's about to pop a blood vessel in his brain. So there's no doubt about that. Yeah, and then we finish up with Gene left to sign off saying who knows where the exhaust pipes from one of those Harleys may end up at the show.
Up the pooper, probably.
Yeah. Honestly, pretty flat ending and a weird end to this show. I mean, other than the like A for effort to the boys for trying to bring some energy to land this thing with some excitement, but like weird. Which kind of pivots me over to my discussion question, because to me, this episode felt like one where, in contrast to what we were seeing before, the angles are kind of meh, and the wrestling was actually pretty good most of the way through it. Whereas, especially like last week, the angles were the thing, and the wrestling was very forgettable. Again, in fairness, a lot of the main eventers are not there. Apparently, maybe Rick's still there. I don't know. Maybe that's why he didn't show up today. He missed his flight. Or he just found a geisha to shack up with or something. But yeah, for you, what makes for, to steal Matt's line, a more sports entertaining program? A show that has great wrestling and meh angles, or a show that has meh angles and great wrestling? Whoever wants to take it can take it.
Ooh, that's a really good question. Um,
Thank you.
I think that if while I am very much into the great wrestling side, generally speaking, I think if it's just any old weekly show, if I've got to deal with one thing or the other being meh, I think I want it to be the wrestling.
No.
Yeah, I guess, and I'd come in. I guess it depends on where you are in your show to show cycle. Like if you're heading out of a pay-per-view or you're heading into your go home show, I think you want to have your stories and your angles be the bigger part and you can have your wrestling fail. I think if you want to maintain a fan base from pay-per-view to pay-per-view, in those middle, you're gonna need wrestling to pop and you can maybe have your angles fall off because modern wrestling and a real criticism of the current WWE product is it's all stories and bad wrestling that never goes to finishes. That and that also plays into your PLEs where feuds never blow off and they just roll in perpetuity until they're so sick of it. But I think your best is coming out of your big show. You're going to build angles. Going into it, you're going to build angles, and you're going to fill the rest of it those weeks with solid wrestling. That's what I would prefer.
And I guess if we're going to make the modern comparison, this is really the question of AEW versus WWE. Is one's got wrestling, one's got angles. If we put those two together, and you'd have a complete product, maybe. But yeah, I don't honestly. I don't have necessarily a solid answer. I think the storylines are the most important for keeping viewers. Obviously, hardcores like us, the wrestling would do it all by itself, but the angles are what drive ratings. So if that's the case, then this episode would be maybe not as great of an episode for WCW as maybe they might hope. I enjoyed it. I liked the wrestling. It was a pleasant surprise. Whatever booking change, either in decision making or maybe a person they did, it worked for me. I enjoyed this show. Uh, I guess I'll go first on a grade this week. My grade for this show altogether, I put it a B minus. It's not an amazing show, but I enjoyed it more than last week's show, which I had at a C. So maybe I'm damning by faint praise here, but that's where I landed on it. What about you, Joe?
I landed in basically the exact same spot. This is a B minus show. There was just enough at the beginning that I wasn't really into, and that fall off at the end. I think if we could have had everything between like the midpoint of the Conan Wall Street match to right before the main event, I think I'd be looking at it as like probably like an A minus show, A minus B plus somewhere in there. But the bookends just let it down.
I mean, I'd say B plus because you've still got the Leprechaun. If you've got that chunk of time.
Yeah,
that's fair.
And I guess I was kind of two minds on overall for this show. Like for what it was as a show, I guess I was a little higher on it than you guys. I thought it was a pretty good show all around. You did a lot of advancing stories. You had good wrestling to support it. Yeah, there were a couple duds, but that seems to be WCW's thing, is that, as we've talked about, there's a buffet style where you get a lot going on, and you had a couple that didn't hit. But so, for what the show was, I give it like a solid B, maybe trending closer to a B plus. The one thing that I had in my notes that I thought was kind of strange is the NWO content for this week. Like, I thought the Hall and Nash thing, like, they're trying to build that they're this big disruptive force. Yeah, they disrupted the show, but does this feel from our episode where we didn't have Hogan and it kind of struggled, to getting Hogan there and having the NWO portion of it shine, to again not having Hogan and having it kind of not advance your NWO storylines much outside of the announcement of matches for Hog Wild involving the NWO. I thought that overall building the NWO's momentum was a little bit weaker than the week prior, but as we know in the future, having experienced this in real life, eventually the NWO is going to be so strangling that you'll look back on this and go, there wasn't much NWO in this show. So I guess for where we're at in this point of history, it felt kind of weird for me. So, as much as I did have a positive view of this show, also having the NWO not be a big part of it seems strange.
Well, maybe we can headcanon this because we know that the show had chronic production problems from about the Outsider segment on. Maybe the whole production staff went to Kevin's for pot pies and Mountain Dew, and that's why they had all those issues. So it was really a masterstroke by Big Daddy Diesel in delivering that attack on the production crew. But this week, kind of a down dip, at least in terms of the NWO storyline. But I know that in the kind of arc from Bash at the Beach to the Hog Wild the Hog Wild Championship match, there are a couple of mileposts that are big and important. One of them was last week, the big promo with Hulk Hogan making his appearance. The next one is coming next week. So look forward to that, everybody. But for this episode, I am Adam. He's Joe. The other guy's Matt. Thank you for listening. And as always,
Hogan, you can go to hell.
Thanks, everybody. The New Pod Order is a sister show of the Analyzing Attitude podcast, which you probably guessed from us being on their channel. Be sure to drop a leg on the like and subscribe buttons. And if you like our show, you should give theirs a listen, because you'll probably like it too. Its opening video was created by Ace, and the theme was recorded by Jade Garrow and is used with permission. If you want to contact the show, our email address is newpodorderpodcast@gmail.com, or reach out to us on X at NPOrderPodcast. The show is hosted by Adam and Matt Rogers and Joe Chasick, who want you to remember that when you're NPO for life.